The name of the blog is Marc Unleashed. Is there a particular reason why you named it Unleashed? Or is there a part of you that was bound and you finally let him go, or the true person who you are go?
Well, I think it happened in 2011, I want to say, or maybe 2012. It was. I remember it being like a New Year's Eve. I want to say it was 2012. But I had already started blogging, but I was blogging under a different name.
Yes.
And I had already kind of established it. It was like, I think, Culture Shock or something like that.
You were doing that.
So I was still blogging, and I think I had came up with maybe another blog. And at that time, I was having other people write different sections for me, because what I wanted to do was like create an online magazine. So I had a few other writers, and they kind of like strayed away and weren't really writing anymore. So it was just back to me again. And something hit me and just said Marc Unleashed. Like, I felt like, a lot of times when we go into the new year, we kind of have these new, I guess, themes for our lives and resolutions. But I think it was more than a theme to me, because I'm still using that. Like, if that's on my Instagram, it's on my Twitter, it's like my YouTube. Everything is Marc Unleashed, because I think I went into this phase of life where I didn't want to be traditional anymore. I didn't want to live my life based on the standards of the next man, but based on my relationship with God. I just wanted to come clean with stuff. I didn't want to pretend to be, before then I think I was carrying this image of, since I'm a Christian, I have to be perfect, and I have to pretend to be perfect even though I know I'm not. So Marc Unleashed was just this place in my life where I felt like it's okay to be free, as far as admitting that I don't make 100 every day, and some days I do struggle, and I think it's okay to come to a place where it's alright to sometimes admit what you struggle with, because we'll oftentimes hide behind the word struggle. I'm just struggling with a few things. Well, when will you come to this place of being able to openly admit to what the things are? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think a lot of times as believers and people as a whole, we're bound by the fact that we can't tell what we struggle with, because it has kept us in a place of shame. I do know everyone struggles with something, but it takes a different type of person. It takes a different level of courage to say, now this is what I struggle with. You know what I'm saying? So that's what Marc Unleashed is, that brand of saying, yes, it's something, but I'm brave enough to say what the something is.
Right.
So that's the whole idea between Marc Unleashed, and the tagline for that is, I'm finally unleashed. Like, finally unleashed.
Are you going to be doing anything else soon with Change Culture Clothing?
Yes. Actually, while I was on deployment, I was able to link up with a few people. Because before I left, I had started a process of rebranding the image of it, the feel of it, the theme. I shortened the name from Change Culture Clothing to CX3. Gave it a different feel and a direction that I want to go in. So now that I'm finally back on land, I can actually begin to run with it and start it back up again. So definitely in the near future. I don't think it's on my I don't think it's one of the things that are on the top of my to-do list right now, but it's definitely in the top 5. You know what I'm saying? I think there's some other things that are kind of taking the important spot, which is number 1 right now, but it is definitely on my to-do list.
Right. Now, another thing that I did celebrate with you this weekend, you had been installed as a pastor.
Right, correct.
Now, how did you, now I know you're very transparent in your preaching. You're very transparent. Now, I need to say this on camera. What got me when you preached, after the installment part and when you started to preach, and when I saw you move, I'm like, oh yeah, he's a pastor now.
Oh man.
I was like, okay. But for you to flow like you did, he preached with no notes. I'm accustomed to your preaching. And you did no notes and you just flowed flawlessly.
That was God. That was definitely God. I shared with a lot of people. I mean, I know I shared while I was preaching that I didn't use no notes, but I mean, maybe because it flowed so well, people were like, okay, that's cool. But I really had to talk to a few people like, yo, I didn't use any notes. Like, I wanted people to understand the importance of, and I know a lot of preachers don't use notes, some do, whatever your preference is, but for me, even though when I preach sometimes I'll move away from the notes, I at least like to have them on standby just in case something is going on where I get sidetracked or a baby is crying and it throws me off. I can come back to my notes and say, okay, that's what I'm at, and pick it back up.
Right.
So without the notes, it's almost like a man that was a crippled man walking and saying, I don't want the cane. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I may be able to walk, but just in case something happens, a pothole is on the floor, I want to have my cane on standby so I can catch myself. So when God was like, you know, no notes, like move in faith, it was like, okay, I hear that, I understand that, but I'm going to write these notes just in case. And something would not allow me, I kid you not, something would not allow me to write those notes. I really wanted to, and I started to disobey the voice of God and be like, okay, I hear what God's saying. I'm going to write these notes, and I'm just going to put a little bit on there, just a little bit, not much. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't write notes, you know what I'm saying? And I think that was the groundbreaking part where, okay, you finally trusted me, and you can see what happens when you just trust me. Now, that doesn't mean that next time I preach, God's going to say the same thing. Like, I think that was just a test, and I think I passed.
You passed.
Yeah.
You passed. Now, when you actually accepted the call as pastor, because where it had to happen during your deployment, that's somewhere where you actually accepted the pastoral call. When was that moment?
Well, like around 2008, God had given me the vision for Army of God. I began to kind of sketch things out for it then. Before I left, actually, I don't know. I think it was during the deployment time, but it wasn't the last one I just came from. It was the one prior to that. Something just began to, like, a difference began to happen. I don't know the exact moment, but it's like, I don't know, it just became like something that started pressing at me, like, what if I'm called a pastor? And I do remember having a dream and waking up from the dream, and one of my old pastors, something had happened to him and they had called on me to pastor. And I was like, that's just a dream, that's just a dream. But it seemed as though within myself that I was running from what I already kind of knew or what I felt, because I was like, I'm not ready for that. That ain't something, you know, I need to be groomed a little bit more. I'm still struggling with this, I'm still struggling with that. It's like, okay, that is definitely not what God's called me to do. But it seems as though after I got off that first deployment in December and I came back and I spoke with my pastor, I began to talk about it. It's like, you know, like, this is, I need to start, you know what I'm saying? I gotta do something, and I know what I gotta do. So when I went on the last deployment, which is the one I just returned from, that's when I guess the groundwork began to happen. Like, okay, God, I hear you. Now I just need to set a date, and I set the date, and that's what happened. You know what I'm saying? I set the date. I gave myself a deadline. Like, by this date, if you're ready or not, you gotta go ahead and at least accept it. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to. What I was trying to do is have the whole church already mapped out before I even started, but God didn't call me to do that. He just called me to get started, and then I'll map it out as I go. You know?
Yeah. So when he gave you Army of God, what was the specific goal or anything or the purpose for Army of God?
Army of God, in the time that was right before I went to the military. I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but the structure of the military is recruit, basic training, and deploy. Recruit, basic training, deploy. And it's called Army of God because that's pretty much the fundamentals of it, is that we recruit people, which are the people that we're telling or evangelizing to about God. We do basic training, which is a process of discipling people about God and about life and how to apply biblical principles to everyday living. Once those people are trained up, we release them back into the same environment. That's deployment. You know what I'm saying? Now you're at war. Now you're going to fight. Now you're in your workplace and you're fully trained up. And now you're back into your environments with your old friends. Now you're a soldier. Now you can fight against principalities and spirits. And now you can go to war. Now you know how to fast and pray. And that's the outline of it. Recruit, basic training, deployment. And then it just starts all over again. We go back with those people that just went out there. Now you're about to recruit again. Train, deploy, recruit, train, deploy. You know what I'm saying? So I believe that's the gist of why Army is implemented into the name.